Jeff Lichtenstein. He's the CEO of Organic Opportunities and the former founder of Gourmet Guru. After Jeff tells us about his story and how he became so successful in building his businesses, I will introduce George Licarezos, one of the directors of LICA. George will introduce each of our 6 presenting companies. They will give you 7-minute presentations each, followed by a couple of questions. First dibs on those questions belong to our investor panelists. So if you have a question and you don't get picked to ask it, please don't be offended. The panelists go first. Only if the panelists have no further questions, might get opened up to the floor for 1 or 2 questions. After all 6 of our presenting companies have gone, George will introduce Michael Lane, another director of LICA, who will moderate our panel discussion with 3 industry investors and experts. There'll be a little Q&A with the panelists, and then we'll wrap up the event with concluding remarks, and we should be done before 11 a.m. so we can all get to work and make some money today. With that, I'd like to introduce Jeff Lichtenstein. Jeff built Gourmet Guru, which was an all-natural and organic food retail distribution company with a $10,000 personal investment in 1996 into a vertically integrated manufacturing, importing, representation, merchandising, consultancy, and distribution business based in a state-of-the-art, LEED-certified facility in Hunts Point, Bronx, with over $60 million in revenues and over 100 employees before selling it in 2016. In 2017, Jeff launched Organic Opportunities, raising the bar in the organic food and beverage technology landscape. Jeff?
Good morning. I hope everyone's doing well today. Hooker stole the meat truck. Not a New York Post headline, but a real subject line of an email I received from my overnight warehouse manager in one of many great adventures building an organic and natural food distribution business for the past 20 years. But before I start, I'd like to ask you guys a question. We all know one of the most enigmatic questions, which is, what is the meaning of life? That's not the question I have for you today. I have the second most difficult question. What does it take to be happy? If we can get maybe one or two thoughts on that. What does it take to be happy?
A great family.
Great family. Can't argue with that.
Good health.
Good health.
Passion in your life.
Passion in your life.
Good food.
Yeah. all correct. There's no wrong answer. It's an individual thing. But in my estimation, the great news, if you don't know the answer to the question, is it's a lot easier than the meaning of life. I believe wholeheartedly that the answer is nothing more than a desire to be happy. That it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's really where my story starts. As a severely dyslexic kid who could barely get by in English class writing letters upside down and backwards, I then had to endure the second half of my day learning Hebrew, which consists of foreign letters from right to left instead of left to right. I was attending yeshiva at the time. I quickly learned the Marine adage of adapt and overcome. As I wasn't going to stay happy, as if I wasn't going to be happy, I would have been miserable. So like a good Marine, I also learned about diversionary tactics, starting with creating a diversion of how inept I was at reading and writing. So I quickly learned 2 vital skills: how to become class clown and how to schmooze. Keep him laughing and change the topic quickly. Thankfully, my parents caught on and transferred me to public school. After college, like most kids from Long Island, by way of Queens, I became a goat farmer in the Dominican Republic. True story and a long one. After that, you know, what I discovered down in the Dominican Republic was that I wanted to pursue my passion. My dad was down there making goat cheese, oddly enough. Long story. What I discovered was that I was passionate about food. Most kids were saving up money in college for beer. I was saving up money for a crab cake. And what I did with that was pursued my passion. You know, that's something everyone should do at some point in life. And after a brief time in the Dominican Republic, realizing the business plan that sounded good on paper, I could have made the goat cheese cheaper on Park Avenue when you got through the red tape down there. I came back to New York and didn't start anything. But I wanted to pursue working for someone who was the best at what they did, which was the advice of my dad at the time. And had a cup of coffee with Budweiser, realized big companies weren't for me at that point, and wound up working with the best in class in the natural and in specialty food space, small pate company. And realized at some point it was a small niche, and they really weren't interested in kind of taking the next steps after I proposed a couple of ideas, a very entrepreneurial DNA. And sort of had a fork in the road there, left on very good terms, and started amongst the ideas I proposed to them when they didn't want to pursue them, I said, well, let me see what I can do here. And a couple of companies offered me jobs. And I said, you know what, maybe I can work for a couple of these companies. And I became a broker, a food broker, which I did for about 2 years. And wanted to make sure all the products were natural that I was brokering. Built it up to around 7 companies, which was a great opportunity, starting a company and then getting these seven companies ultimately on the map. The biggest challenge I had, this is the mid-90s, believe it or not, was finding a distributor for these natural products, because nobody really cared about natural. Nobody knew what organic was. It wasn't defined yet by the government. And that was the aha moment for starting a company called Gourmet, which I started with a $10,000 investment, which was, as my wife reminds me, our wedding gifts, which finally paid back recently. With that, I was sole proprietor, so I was driving the truck, making deliveries, sales, accounting, you name it. And not the greatest neighborhood in the world. It was Hunts Point, South Bronx, 20 years ago when it was the boogie down Bronx. And looking back, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I learned a lot about, what it takes to make it on the mean streets of New York City. And ultimately, later on, what we call the Frank Sinatra rule: if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. Along the way, we started out selling. The only thing I could find that was good, that was natural at the time, was cheese. That was really all you could find that was any good, believe it or not. Some 20 years ago. One day, I'm making delivery myself on the Upper East Side. I go into a store, and the guy says, "Hey, I got this stuff on the shelf. It's starting to sell really well." And I said, "What is this stuff?" He says, "It's the stuff I'm flying in. Maybe you can pick up the airport. You got that truck." I started out with a used box truck. So maybe you can help me distribute it. And he said, "Try it." So I tried. I said, it's a little thick. I don't really get it. I said, "What is this?" He says, "It's yogurt. I'm flying in from Greece." So I'm thinking to myself, he's flying in yogurt in an airplane? Well, after we threw out more than we sold for the first 6 months, about $8 billion later, I think the Greek yogurt category is here to stay. So we became the first distributor in the United States for Faye Greek yogurt. And that sort of got us on the map. And thereafter, right about that same time, I met a guy who was starting a deli company, and he acquired actually a small deli company called Jugtown Mountain. And he said, "What do you think?" I said, "It's an interesting idea. What do you want to do with it?" He said, "I'm thinking of going natural. That's why I came to you." And I said, "It's a good idea, but Jugtown Mountain, I don't really get the name." He said, "How do you like the name Applegate?" I said, "That's a lot better." He recently sold, that was Steve McDonald, he sold his company for $750 million about 2 years ago. So once was an accident, twice a coincidence. The third time I gave free advice was to a guy starting. I realized it wasn't an accident. It was a guy who was looking to get in the yogurt category as well. And and he was buying a plant upstate New York. He said, Jeff, my idea is I want to take on Dannon Yogurt. I could do it better and cheaper than Dannon Yogurt can. And I said, I want to thank you and your partner, Mr. Kevorkian, for your business plan, but it's probably not for me to distribute this product. And he said, what are you, a wise guy? What is that supposed to mean? I said, well, Dannon's a big one to take on, and I wouldn't recommend that. But I said, I can help you write your business plan. Faya Yogurt had kicked us out of Whole Foods at the time. We lost a lot of business there, and Whole Foods said, find another yogurt for us, and we'll help you make it up. So it was a good timing to get good free advice. So I took a piece of paper, I drew a big zero on it, and I said, this is your business plan. And he said, what is this, a joke? What is that supposed to mean? I said, guess what the biggest selling SKU of any product we have that we, sell everywhere is? And he said 0% yogurt? I said, 0% Greek yogurt. And he said, oh, okay, Greek yogurt. I said, that's where you should be. I said, guess how many SKUs of 0% Greek yogurt that are in the marketplace? He said, 10, 15. I said, no, there's one SKU. I said, come out with 5 or 10 SKUs of 0% Greek yogurt, put a 0 on it. That's your business plan. Giovanni wound up becoming the fastest company to $1 billion, not in the history of the food business, but in the history of business. My understanding, I believe Salesforce.com may have surpassed that more recently. So at that point, I realized, maybe I should start taking up some of my own advice, and along with being in the natural food distribution business, we launched some of our own consumer packaged goods products. Fast forward to 2016, sorry. I was approached, we were at a phase where we were too big to be small, too small to be big. We had come out of a very tough stretch in business, and realized we needed to either borrow money from an investor, acquire a company, or be acquired to take the next step, move to a bigger facility, and or expand the business to the West Coast. And by good fortune, we were approached by the world's largest natural food distributor called UNFI, United Natural Foods, who liked what we were doing in terms of the urban market, in terms of finding emerging brands, and the TLC that we have in dealing with our customers and suppliers. And I met the CEO, Steve Spinner, and by the 9th meeting, it was love at first sight. A pretty dynamic guy, and we signed the dotted line to merge our companies. We felt there were a lot of great synergies between our organizations, and a lot of our strengths were things they wanted to do more of, and we felt we could scale out what we were doing, and I felt like it was a nice place to call home, and for our team to get acclimated and take the next steps in their career. And that's what I've been doing the last year. Until this past August, when my contract with them was up, and started a company called Organic Opportunities. Organic Opportunities is an angel incubator where there's about 10 of us, and we invest and give guidance to 3 consumer packaged goods companies in the organic natural space right now. And I'm very excited about this next chapter. So, do I have a couple more minutes, Carol? Or
Couple, yeah.
yeah, okay. So just to wrap things up, what qualifies me to talk about success? Having realized I've failed more than I've succeeded, especially early on. But in baseball, if you fail 7 out of 10 times, you get in the Hall of Fame. So my desire to succeed by learning from failures and replicating success is what drives me every day. So what I wanted to mention to you guys are the top 3 keys to success that I've found over the years. Number 1, what type of business are we in? My thinking is, whether you're in insurance, real estate, finance, organic food, we're all in the same business, which is the relationship business. Treat everyone you meet as if they are the president or the king or the queen, and only good things will follow. Greet people warmly, treat them fairly and with honesty and integrity. Follow the golden rule our parents taught us. Everyone remembers the golden rule, hopefully. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, right? So that's number one. Number two.
He who has the goal makes the rules.
Well, when we started the business, that's how it was. Number two, know who your most important customers are at all times. It's a lot easier than people make it, as the order I believe, should pretty much be static. Number one, the internal customer, everyone in your company. You can't take proper care of your external customers if you aren't taking care of your internal customers. Number two, your external customers, of course, especially focusing on the top 20, drive 80% of your volume typically. But keep an eye on the up-and-comers as well. Number three, the suppliers. And number four, our community. Giving back to our community is the best way to share our success and improve the world around us, which is a big part of making a positive impact between the dash. And number three, it's not how quickly we succeed, but how quickly we bounce back from failure and adversity. How many of you have read the book Unbroken or American Icon? Just a couple of you guys? Those are my two top reads, suggestions. American Icon is if you're in a tough stretch and you want to figure out a great way to bounce back, which, 20 years in business or however long you've been in business, you're going to have some peaks and valleys. It's an amazing book about overcoming the valleys. And spoiler alert coming up on these, but what Louis Zamperini and Alan Mulally, Louis Zamperini was in the book Unbroken, and Alan Mulally was the CEO of Ford, had in common was and a lot of the most successful people have in common is an uncompromising desire to overcome adversity, like Mulally did when he took over Ford and re-engineered nearly everything to create success, and like Zamperini did when he fought the most challenging odds to achieve Olympic success and overcome many unbelievably death-defying encounters in the Second World War. So when times are tough, keep things in perspective. You're not battling sharks at sea or even fending off hookers from stealing your meat truck. Keep looking forward with optimism. Keep learning, enjoy every day, and make the world a better place by spreading your own sunshine even on a cloudy day. Full speed ahead to all of you guys. Thank you very much.